in teaching the things that God gave it unto you. And God shows you the way that all men walk in this whole world. For the ways that all men walk, that are the lowly ways of a lowly world, are the shallow ways of men in a world they could not have known. For all men came believing they knew this world, and no man knew it, for no man could have known it. For the way of the world is deep, and the thinking of man is shallow. And except man understand the depth of the world, he could never understand the depth of God in the world. And God keeps showing man that in all the ways that he came and left, he was never wiser than when he came in, because his ways are shallow. To know God and to understand God is to know the depth of God. And no man can find the depth of God except God shows man how to discover God and how to know the way in which God is truly deep. And every man went in his shallow way, and no man understood that in all the ways he went into a shallow grave. God showed him that his ways on earth were always shallow. In speaking the things that you are given to say, so that you edify the children of God in the true knowledge and understanding of God. For in knowing the depth of God, they will come to the true knowledge of God and themselves. For no man knows why God hid the Spirit deep within man. For no man asks God how it is that the Spirit dwells in me. And no man could know how the Spirit dwells within him, because he knows not the depth of God, that is the Spirit. And so God knew that there was no man who was able to discover his own spirit. For the Spirit lies within the depth of the bones of man. And that is why God leaves the bones always as a testament to show man that the dwelling place of his Spirit is in his bones. And that is how deep God is in man. You can't penetrate your bones, you can't see through your bones, and the Spirit dwells in the bones of men. In teaching the children to know the ways of God and to know themselves, you teach them the things that they had not known, they could not have known. For everywhere that man showed man that he always dwells in buildings that are always fortified around him, he still did not grasp what we showed him, that in your bones God exists. In your bones God exists. And that is the reason God showed man that he was able to move and do the things that he has done. Because your bones directs every part of you. These things God says to you was never ever known to men. And that is why when the spirit leaves the bones, man is in a state of stillness, cannot move, cannot move. All these things God wanted man to recognize. But he looked everywhere outside of himself because he didn't understand himself. And when he did not understand himself, he could not understand the world. And so all men went believing they knew God. Every man went believing that he knows this world. And that is why God said, how could you be in charge of something you don't even know? You can't know. It is greater than you. And this whole world could have yielded up to man the sacred and divine secrets of its own creation, so that when man would have weighed his own creation against the creation of the world, he would find the balance of God exist in all things. The balance of God exists in all things. And when the balance of God exists in all things that work within the divine order of God, all things work in harmony. And in every way they work in harmony, whatever they would exchange, it would always be in sincerity, because it carries all that which is in the goodness and the love and the divine of God within it. See, man doesn't understand why God said God is a giver, why God told man it is more blessed to give. Because had he understood the principle of giving, he would have understood the nature of God in all things. There's nothing in this world that God has shown man that doesn't show man that it is a giver. Man exists on earth. He survives on earth because everything that he has found on earth gives itself to man. And it does so freely. It does so freely. The wind asks man for nothing. The sun that shines asks man for nothing. The waters of the world asks man for nothing. The vegetation of the world asks man for nothing. Earth asks man for nothing. Everything that he has seen demonstrates to him the way in which it is God. It is a giver. It is a giver. And what it gives from the sincerity of itself is that which is given in the divinity of God in it. Man strayed too far away from these principles of God. And when he strayed away from the principles of God, he found himself always wanting and wanting and wanting. And for this reason, he keeps asking God, could you give me this? Could you give me that? Can I have this? Can I have that? Could this not happen to me? Could that not happen to me? And he still doesn't understand nothing around him that exists in the divine order of God. Ask God for anything. Because it knows that in the way in which it works in the divine order of God, it will be always like God, able to give and to give and to give and to give in the never-ending love of the never-ending sincerity of itself. None of these things were understood by mankind. For wherever man walked in this world, he walked always blinded to what he was given to see, because he was corrupted by his own evil. And everywhere man became corrupted in himself, whatever he did became corrupted, because he gave the corruption from himself in the things in which he produced from himself. God always said unto you, it is because of God's saving grace that the world was able to go on. It is never by anything that man has done, because God knew that everything that man did was so corrupted that it can bring forth nothing good. And it brought forth nothing good. For everything that man did was evil, and every evil thing that came from man showed man that it always led to his demise. And these things we have said over and over and over and over and over again, that except man waited for God to teach man how to discover the sacred and divine ways of God, he would never be able to find a way to know how God exists in him and how God exists in the world and how he, like God, exists. And so everywhere that man is today, in all the things that he does, it will lead to nothing good. And the children of God must know these things, for we have shown them over and over again too, that whatever comes forth from man brings nothing good. And every man suffered and every man died, because nothing that came forth from man brought forth the eternal light of the eternal God within man, so that in all the ways that man would walk upright before your God and under the sacred and divine principles of God, he would find a way to discover his own greatness. The children must wake up to this knowledge, for we give you always to speak and to teach and to preach and to say the things that come from us to you, from you to them, that in knowing these things the children may come to the full knowledge of the truth. For the truth was not known to the children of God, because the children of God went wayward in a world they could not have known. Speak the things we give you to say, and say it in the way in which we give it to you to say. For the children of God are lost and confused in this world. And they're lost and confused because the world is polluted with evil. And every way that the many in high places are polluted with evil and corruption, they can give them nothing good. They cannot give them anything good. Their salvation lies with God and God alone, and they must know these things. For every way we have said unto you, tell them to turn away from these ways, turn away from these ways. We say to them, nothing good comes from man. Nothing good can come from them. And in all the ways that they practice evil, in all the many ages that they have come, they can bring forth nothing good from it in themselves. The children must understand what is being shown to them. They must see what we are giving to them, because they still do not understand what it is that was shown to them. For their ancestors perished because they too believed in them. And they knew whenever they crossed from this way that they were wrong. And they tried to guide the children away from the ways in which they had gone, that they may not suffer the same fate. But the children know not the ways of their ancestors, nor do they know the way in which they would have guided them to know the truth. For they keep following the ways of evildoers, and everywhere they followed the ways of evildoers, they found themselves crying out to unknown gods. Every one of them cry out to gods that are unknown, because these are not the gods that were given to them. These are not the gods that created them and created the world from whence they came. And so the children of God find themselves always mesmerized by everything that is given to them, following blindly the ways of the wicked, and never knowing how wicked they are, because they have no eyes to see the way the Spirit is in them and how the Spirit works from within them. These things we give unto you to say and to teach and to preach. For the Lord God says unto you that the ending is sooner than man know it. And except the children recognize what God is saying to them, heed what is being said to them, follow what is being said to them, and always remember that their only salvation is God and God alone, they will find themselves at the mercy of every evil that will come to them. For God sees into the minds of men, for the hearts of men are hardened in the evils that all men have done. And when God knew that the children of God were lost and know not what it is that they had found themselves in, God knew that God would send someone to show them the way, to lead them in the way, and to guide them in the way, so that in all the ways that they may find a path back to light, they may find a path back to the truth, and the truth will set them free to know God in themselves. Every way that we preach, you preach. Every way we teach, you teach. For that which is of you is that which is of us, and that which is of us is that which is of you. The children must listen. The children must listen. No dead man can return to save them. No one that does not look like them will ever work for the good of them. They have seen it in every age they have come. No one that does not look like you will work for the good of you. God showed them over and over in every age. But God said they're not learning anything because they're not heeding what is being told to them. For the ways of deceivers, God told them, are great. And when they know not how they deceive, they know not how it is that they will be deceived. And so God tells you to tell them, you are your own salvation. In you there is the God that is greater than the God of earth. And all the tribes of earth are of gods that are lesser gods than your own gods. They must believe these things. They must believe. For in all the ways that your father and mother God spoke to them, God told them, all things will be possible to you if you only believe. If you only believe. The belief in God comes with the firm commitment to the faith in God. And the faith in God comes with the trust in God. So that in every way that man would believe, his faith will be well founded, and his trust in God will be as solid as a rock. The ways of the light of God that cometh forth from you go forth into the world. The lights of God that go forth into the world goes to those whose faith is well founded. God touches the hearts of the faith of those that are well founded, whose trust is in God and God alone, that in all the ways that God guides them through the storms of this world, God shows them that God takes them under the outspread wings of God and shields them from the harm and danger that God has given to come forth in this final and last phase of judgment unto earth. It has been given that the wars of God be given, that the servants of God that are the armies of God begin the march against the heathens, the Hebrews, and the Gentiles. For the war of God has begun.